Hey, future CPAs. Today's video is going to be answering your questions. So I've been getting some comments on my videos asking questions about the CPA exam and different things that people would like me to cover in more detail. So today's question comes from follower RV. So she was watching an interview that I recently had with Angie. So we recently helped Angie pass the CPA exam. And her goal was to do it before she turned 50. So she was more of a non-traditional CPA candidate. And for her, finding a mentor to help her because she was so far removed from college to help her study smarter was the really big key game changer for her. And so RV is asking for additional help regarding memorization techniques for accounting and how to take multiple choice questions when there seems to be more than one right answer. And so these are great questions and something that I'm more than happy to dig in today on the video. So let's get the questions out of the way here. So the first thing we want to discuss is memorization techniques for accounting. And so when you think about passing the CPA exam, you need to understand something specifically that memorization is really not the key to passing the CPA exam. It's more grasping the material because the CPA exam, it's extremely random, the types of questions you're going to get. And if you just memorize a bunch of facts, you're not going to be able to dynamically apply those facts to specific question types. So it's better to have an understanding so that you can dynamically apply that understanding no matter what questions you might get. So for example, if you're just memorizing multiple choice questions or definitions, and then you get thrown a task-based simulation that is asking things in a way that is covering the topic, but in a way you've never seen before, if you don't fully grasp from the very beginning of that concept, you're not going to be able to apply that information. So the question of the day is, how do you attain a grasp of the material? And so what I teach inside my mentorship program, Kessler CPA Review, and specifically the mentorship piece is called Ultimate CPA Exam Guide, is we teach what's called study loops. And so step number one is you have to learn the material. And so how do you learn the material in a way that's going to help you understand and grasp the material? Well, you need to study based on your study personality. So what's your study personality? Well, it's your learning strengths. So what is your learning style? Do you prefer watching videos? Do you prefer reading a textbook? Do you prefer answering questions first? So these are all things that you need to figure out first, because if you don't understand how you learn best, then your risk is creating a lot of busy work. And busy work is the CPA candidate killer because ultimately you're feeling like you're getting a lot done, but there is a more efficient way that you could be studying that's going to help you learn the material even faster. And so when you learn the material, this is obviously the first thing that people do. But the second thing you need to do that people don't do is to be constantly reviewing. So when you first learn a topic, it's going to feel like you understand it. But what about 8 weeks from now? Are you going to remember it on exam day if you don't look at it constantly? So that is the second key here, is to be constantly looping back and reviewing everything you've learned up to this point. And something that we provide here at Kessler CPA Review. And so here is Kessler CPA Review. So this is my study supplement, and we actually have study looping built into our study supplement. So you'll be going through a selection of topics, and then periodically we'll remind you, be like, hey, it's time to do a study loop, dig into your weakest areas. And so when you're constantly digging into your weakest areas, then you're creating a to-do list for what you should be doing during your final review. Because during your final review in that final week before you sit for an exam, the last thing you should be doing is covering topics you already understand. But when you're constantly learning and moving forward, but then also looping back and reviewing, then that's going to be how you achieve a grasp of the materials. So the more you see a topic, the better you're going to grasp it. And it's basically like this snowball effect. So the more you review, the faster you're going to learn, and so forth. And another piece that we have inside of Kessler CPA Review to help you grasp material and do it in the right order is to create a custom practice quiz. And so basically once you have either gone through all the material, or if you want to do it sequentially, what you can do is select the question categories. And so all of our questions are grouped out by the AICPA blueprint. So we map everything to the blueprints. And then what you can do is select all the easy questions first. So if you're brand new to a particular topic, we recommend starting with easy, work through all the easy questions, then upgrade to moderate, and then difficult, and then expert. And so this is logical path that you need to be taking in order to master a particular topic. And the way that the calculation is done is that this is a community driven data course. And so basically the more questions that the community answers, our system is going to rank each question based on easy, moderate, difficult, and expert. And so the more data we have, the more accurate these question difficulties is going to be, so that you can, when you're first starting out with a topic, start with the easy ones and then move up to expert. And hopefully you'll be mastering the expert questions by exam day. And so again, it's very powerful and very important to have a study method in place. And so with study loops, again, you need to be able to utilize targeted review as well when you're constantly reviewing. So that's the third step, is to utilize practice exams, use your analytics, and then do targeted review of those areas that you've identified. So when you're taking practice quizzes, look at your results, see which topics you're struggling with, which ones or specific questions even. And so let me do a quick practice exam here. So you can go through and we'll just do 5 questions. And then I'll show you the review process that we recommend here. So basically you can pause the custom practice, and then wait for things to sync up. And fun fact, all this is available on mobile. So we have an Android and iPhone app, and everything syncs up to the cloud here. So we've got a little cloud icon. So this session, it's synced up now to my mobile device, and I can pick up this study session on the go and vice versa. But for now, I'm just going to end the question, and then end the quiz and then jump into the review. And so basically I got 0% correct. So let's go through the review. So you can review all these questions. And then this is where the targeted review happens. So you look at the explanation and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. This is why I got it incorrect. And you can copy this statement right here and leave a digital note, maybe to, hey, make a flashcard of this later, and then save the note there. And then if you want to come back to this question later, you can bookmark it. If there's something you want to highlight, you can highlight that as well. And then that will be saved into the test bank. And then you can click done reviewing. And then you can look at your notes and say, okay, I need to make a flashcard of this later. And then you can go to Kessler Cards, go to My Sets, go to List, and then you can grab what you copied and pasted there, and then do the front side of the card, save the card, study, and boom, there you go. Now you've got a flashcard that's going to capture that aha moment so that you can retain that understanding of whatever it was that you were researching. And so just a couple other things, the highlights, let's go to custom practice. There we go. The highlight here, that's saved and is tied directly to the text is directly tied to the question itself. You can also bookmark questions and again, leave notes. So I recommend, if you're somebody who likes to-do lists, using the digital notes as your to-do list as you're reviewing these questions and helping yourself to grasp the material. And again, you can use the flashcard generator with any CPA review course that you're using. And I do recommend the majority of the courses out there don't have this functionality. So just keep a tab open. And as you're studying, just make your own flashcards, regardless of the study materials that you're using. So really powerful little functionality there. Okay, so let's see here. Back to this process. Okay, so we've covered the first 3 steps. So you got to learn the material first. The next step is to constantly be reviewing and looking back and looping back over everything you've learned up to this point, and do that periodically. And then once you're reviewing, you need to do targeted review through taking practice exams, using analytics, your flashcards, whatever it might be, to start identifying those areas that you're really struggling and don't fully grasp. And then step 4 is to then create a laser focused list, start outsourcing your questions, because again, you don't have time to sit there and spin your wheels. You need to be focusing on outsourcing those questions to support or tutors and whatever it is that you need to do to get your question answered. And so when you do this periodically, I do recommend that you batch all your questions together so that you're not overwhelming your email by sending individual questions. So try to batch all your questions together, track them, and then keep an organized list of the solutions once you get the answer. And so then you go back and repeat and keep moving forward, learning the material. And then at the end of the week or a couple times a week, start constantly reviewing everything you've covered all the way back to the beginning. Do targeted review, track and outsource your questions and repeat. And this is something that you'll want to do up until the final review period. So I hopefully that answers your question, RV, about memorization techniques for accounting. That's definitely something very important to understand, that there is a big difference between memorizing and understanding. And you really need to focus on understanding so that it doesn't matter what CPA exam questions you get on the real exam. Okay, so the next question, how to take multiple choice questions when there seems to be only one right answer. And that's a great question. So let's dive into a practice quiz here. Okay, so the CPA exam is famous for doing this. And so what you need to understand with multiple choice questions is that, let's see here, let's find a good one. Let me turn review answers off. Okay, yeah, this looks like a good one. So especially for sections like audit, they really force you to make sure that you read every single word in the question. And so when you're looking at a question, the very first thing I do is look at what exactly is being asked. So I don't even look at the details. I look at the question. So this one right here is Cohen employed what type of risk response when purchasing this insurance policy? So sometimes they throw red herrings into the questions with all the facts and everything. And if you read that, it just wastes your time, because then you're going to start thinking about that fact. So when you start with what is actually being asked first, that's going to help you filter automatically the irrelevant information. And let me turn that on. Confirm the question. Okay. So already I know that when I'm looking for the answer, when I reread the question, I need to look for what type of risk response when purchasing this insurance policy occurred. And so then we go back, read the facts, and then starting with D, I do recommend you start with D, work backwards. And so then when you understand what the question is asking you, then you need to start eliminating each of the different options. And so the correct answer here is D. And let's see here. So I'm a little rusty on my BEC. So he has ordered property and casualty insurance policy. He's recently relocated its manufacturing plant to a region that will allow the company to reduce its tax liability, but there's increased risk of tornadoes. So he's trying to reduce his risk of losing the plant. And so what is the type of risk response that occurs when purchasing this insurance policy? Obviously, avoidance, that sounds like a good response. And if you don't know the specific terminology, that could be a rookie mistake where you go in and you're like, oh, that sounds like an avoidance risk response. So we're trying to avoid the risk of a tornado occurring. Reduction, that also sounds correct. And then sharing, risk sharing. If you didn't understand exactly what was being asked, it'd be very easy, in my opinion, to select B or C, because logically those two kind of sound right? Acceptance, that one you can write off pretty quickly because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So the correct answer is D. And so risk sharing involves transferring some potential to another party. And so that makes sense. And so basically what I would do at that point is, if this is something that I'm not very familiar with, you can copy and paste that into a flashcard. But again, it's all about reducing your odds on multiple choice questions of picking the right answer or the wrong answer. And so just by eliminating acceptance, then you have a 1 in 3 chance of picking the right one. So even if you're not fully sure what the correct one is, then you can at least get rid of A and have a 1 in 3 odds. But hopefully you've been good and have been studying this topic and have a very good idea. And maybe you're familiar with, let's see here, what else? What are the reasons here? Risk avoidance involves exiting the activity that gives rise to the risk. We like to avoid risk of customer non-payments. So again, there's different definitions for each of these risks. And it's a great opportunity to use the question explanations to go in and learn about these other reasons or risk responses that could be tested on the exam. That's the sort of thing that I recommend doing. Try to eliminate as many of the options as possible. Start looking exactly at what's being asked, because some of these options they might be factually correct, but they're not answering what's specifically being asked of you from the question itself. So that's another one in audit that's common, and BEC as well. And so, yeah, so it's all about reducing your odds, picking what you think is the right one. And then if you get it wrong, or even if you get it right, use the question explanation as a learning experience and make your own study materials from the other explanations as well. So hopefully that answers your questions, RV. If not, please leave a comment on this video. I love helping my followers and I love making videos like this. It makes things a lot easier because I know it's helpful for the folks who are watching, because you all have pretty much the same questions because you're in the midst of it all. And so, yeah, so if you want access to Kessler CPA Review, I actually have a special trial offer here. So there's a link directly below the video. It'll take you to this page. We've got a special trial offer where you can try Kessler CPA for 14 days. We just released some new functionality to the test bank, which I just showed you, gave you a little preview of it. We're also sponsored by Hope International. So if you join Kessler CPA today, we're going to be donating 5% of the trial offer. So the proceeds from the trial offer will be donating on your behalf to support an entrepreneur in need. And basically 5% of a trial will help fund one entrepreneur for around a month. So the expenses that can be covered, and they have entrepreneurs in Africa, lots of third world countries where a single US dollar can go a long way. And so 5% of the trial offer, it can go to funding an entrepreneur's expenses for one whole month. So imagine the lives that you're going to be changing by working with us to not only pass the CPA exam and go on and change the lives of people in your community, but also the lives of folks and entrepreneurs around the world. So again, it's a great offer, and you can get full access to our mentorship, to our study supplements, and to our accountability partner program. And yeah, there's a ton of great stuff. So be sure to check the link in the video description to get started using Kessler CPA Review version 1.5 today, and start using the most customizable CPA exam test bank ever created. So this is really cool stuff. It's game changer. There's a whole video breaking everything down. If you have any questions, use the chat. You can shoot me a message and I'll be happy to respond as well. So best of luck, RV, and thank you for the comment. And I'm excited to get started helping you all pass the CPA exam. Cheers.